Hey friends, thanks so much for joining me. I know I am long overdue on giving you an update. So grab a cup of tea and get cozy and let's get caught up. So many of you have sent me messages just to check in and make sure I'm doing okay, and I want to start by thanking you for that. You've made me feel like I'm not alone and very much made me feel like you care, and I really truly appreciate it, so thank you. The truth is that I was recently diagnosed with Lyme disease, and I was pretty underwater for a couple of months before the diagnosis, and then with the diagnosis and starting treatment, even more so. So I just needed some time to get my feet underneath me and get my head around it before I was ready to share it with you. The other thing is that some businessy folk had given me the advice that it wasn't a good idea to share your personal challenges on a more public forum as a business owner. And I've just decided that that's not great advice. I've decided that the right thing to do is to share my story, because a story that goes unshared doesn't help anybody. And I believe that the things we go through aren't just for us, they are for other people too. So if there's anything from my story that could possibly help somebody else, I want it to have purpose in that way. And it definitely has purpose in many ways, but I want it to have purpose in that way too. So what can you expect from this channel? Well, I will definitely be talking about design, my passion, and what you know me for in my business. But I'm also going to talk about my health journey and some of the things that I've learned. And I'm going to share more about that with you today. So first, my story. I was bit by a tick when I was 10 years old, and Lyme disease is a tick-borne illness. It had a big, huge, round red rash around it and was really raised and inflamed, which is the typical, sign that you look for with a tick bite, and with Lyme disease in specific. But unfortunately, the doctor that I saw at the time thought that it was a mosquito bite and that it had evolved into a boil somehow, which I've never heard of, but that's what he thought. So he lanced it with a hollow needle, which was probably the worst possible thing he could have done, because that disseminated the infection further through my body. But none of us knew that that's what had happened, that that was what was going on. So I went on my merry way and just started to develop a whole lot of symptoms over time. It started with chronic infections. I just got sick a lot, and it was like heavy duty bronchitis, that kind of thing. And then when I was 13, they said I had asthma, but I didn't really have asthma because the inhalers never worked for me. As it turns out, that was a Lyme symptom called air hunger, but we didn't know that at the time. So then when I was 16, they said because my energy was low, they said I had seasonal affective disorder. And then in my 20s, as the symptoms evolved and developed even further, they said fibromyalgia. I was diagnosed by a rheumatologist with fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome. And then more recently, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune condition that attacks the thyroid. And then the most recent was rheumatoid arthritis, where I've got degeneration in my thumb joints and all the aches and pains that go with rheumatoid arthritis, even though it was seronegative rheumatoid arthritis. Which means that the blood markers weren't there. But I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis and given medication and sent on my way. And the problem with all of this is, I'm not really a big fan of accumulating diagnoses like this, but furthermore, I just wasn't getting better. The symptoms were not improving when I took, all the medication. I would see moderate, mild improvements in some areas, but then other weird symptoms were showing up, and a lot of the things I was experiencing didn't fit under any of the categories of the diagnoses that I had been given. So I went to see yet another physician, and in taking my health history, he caught on to some things that the doctors before him had not. And he said, I think you've got Lyme disease. So he sent me to a Lyme specialist, a doctor in New York, who confirmed the diagnosis and started the treatment protocol. So that's my journey to getting to today. And it has, in essence, informed a lot of my passion around sustainable design and my passion for eco-friendly design, for making healthy choices in your home, which you've probably already seen that thread through what I write about on the blog. And now I get to share more about that with you here, and I definitely plan to do that in the weeks to come. But today I wanted to share 3 little nuggets from my journey, 3 things that I have been learning that might just be helpful to somebody. And if it's helpful to someone, then it's worth the process of having to go through all this to learn it. So the first thing is I've learned that you have to be your own health advocate, because nobody cares about your health as much as you do. Nobody's as invested. Nobody's experiencing what you're experiencing in your body. And nobody knows what healthy feels like for you. So while a baseline that your doctor is satisfied with might work for them, it might not work for you. And you might realize there's way more capacity in me. There's way more potential for health in me. And if you realize that, you really have to take control. As I heard somebody else say, you need to become the CEO of your own health. And that means that you realize that your doctor is a partner in the process of trying to be as healthy as possible, but they aren't in charge. You're in charge. And so if you're not getting the information that you need, if you're not getting the care that you need, the passionate curiosity to find answers that you need, if you're not getting the treatment protocols that are helping you, then you need to search for other partners to work with, other health practitioners that you can work with to help you get to the bottom of things. And I share a little story here now with you just to illustrate that. Many years ago, before I got pregnant with Noah, I had something called a Helicobacter pylori infection. And it's a spiral-shaped bacteria that burrows into the lining of your stomach. And I found out in a pretty dramatic way. I passed out and threw up blood everywhere, and I was hospitalized for 4 days. I nearly needed a blood transfusion. And I didn't wind up getting the blood transfusion, but they did treat me. And then they sent me off home again. And I still had symptoms, but I very quickly got pregnant with Noah. And so, we just chalked those symptoms up to pregnancy while I was pregnant, which in hindsight was a little bit crazy, but we did. And then after I had Noah, I still had symptoms. So I went to see my GP and I said, hey, can we test for this? I think it's not gone. And his response was, listen, you've had it, so you're always going to test positive. There's just a blood test that's positive or negative. You'll always test positive, but you've been treated, so don't worry about it. You're fine. If I had been older, I might have gone right away to see somebody else. But I, for 7 years in my youth, just kind of kept going back to this same GP and saying, hey, listen, it's still not gone. Can we test it? And he kept giving me the same answer. And I finally went to see a naturopath who, in taking my health history, stopped in her tracks when she heard about the H. pylori. And she said, okay, I'm going to send you for a test. And I said, well, listen, here's what my GP says. And she said, no, I'm going to send you for a breath test at McMaster Hospital in their nuclear medicine department. And this evaluates the units in your system. So the allowable units was 50. That was the maximum that you could safely have in your system without requiring treatment. And I was at 1,200. And the reason this was serious is that H. pylori can lead to stomach cancer if it's not treated. So I share that story with you as an example of how if I had just let my doctor, my GP, be the boss, and I had just taken his advice and listened to him and let him brush me off, I could have developed stomach cancer. And that whole situation really taught me that I need to trust myself, and I need to listen to my body, and I need to pursue answers for myself. And if someone's not willing to work with me on that, then I need to find another practitioner who is willing to do that. So that's my first encouragement to you is if you are facing any sort of mystery with your health, any sort of challenge, if you're just not satisfied with where you're at with your health, then continue to seek until you find somebody who's willing to partner with you to help you achieve your goals. And don't give up. Don't give up. So the second piece, the second nugget that I want to share with you today is what happened for me when I got the Lyme diagnosis. Because in addition to accumulating all of these symptoms and these diagnoses over the years, I had also acquired something of a negative inner dialogue. My narrative was basically that my system was really broken and, why was I so pathetic? Why couldn't I keep up with other people's pace? And why couldn't I accomplish everything I wanted to accomplish? Why did I get sick all the time? Why was I always in pain? And, the thing about Lyme is the symptoms migrate a lot through your body and you start to feel like you're crazy. And I was being really hard on myself, if I'm honest. And when I learned about Lyme, I learned that in fact Lyme's pretty serious. Some people die from it, and many are wheelchair bound from it and can't speak or are misdiagnosed with MS. I mean, it can be really, really debilitating. And I paused and I thought, here I am, I'm standing, I can tell my story. I have gotten married and had 2 babies and built a business and done some pretty cool things with my life at this point while my body was fighting Lyme the whole time. And it really flipped the story for me. And that's the thing that I want to encourage you with. Whatever challenge you might be facing, whether it's a health challenge or something in your business, a relationship, something financial, whatever it might be, if you're being hard on yourself, take a moment to take a look at that obstacle and think, what does it say about me that I'm here, I'm still standing, I'm still telling my story, I'm still moving forward despite that thing, whatever it could be. And really flip your story. Start to think in positive ways about how resilient and strong you are. And I'm still working on that. I can still be really hard on myself. But I will say that flipping my story has been a really powerful tool to changing my whole experience and the way I view myself and my life. So I wanted to pass that one on to you. And then the third thing I want to say that I have learned is I need to watch my language. And no, I'm not talking about swearing. I'm talking about how I talk about health challenges, how I talk about challenges in general, but for me, I've learned it through the lens of how do I talk about my health challenges. Because if I say, even if I say for me, if I say I have Lyme, it's a little too close to home. It's a little too much like I'm defining myself by that. So I prefer to say my body is fighting Lyme, or I was diagnosed with Lyme disease. It externalizes it a bit more for me. And the reason I do that is because I don't want to be defined by these things. I don't want to be defined by these illnesses. I don't want to be defined by this struggle. And again, whatever struggle it is that you're facing, I think we can either take a victim mentality and let that struggle define us and take over our lives and be the filter that we see everything through, or we can realize that it's just one facet of our lives and we are so much more than the struggle that we're facing. So watch your language. Think about how you talk about what it is that you are struggling with, whether it's to yourself or to other people. And try and reframe it. Try and think about it differently. For me, I try to externalize it as much as I can because I intend to leave this behind. I want to leave Lyme at the curb. I want to leave all these symptoms behind, and I don't want to give up on that goal. And I don't want to just surrender to the idea that this is the quality of life that I have to surrender to for the rest of my life. So those are my 3 nuggets. That's what I want to share with you today, and I really hope that there's something in there that's helpful, because I think we all are longing to design beautiful, healthy homes and lives that we love, and I believe it's possible. So hold on to your dreams, pursue your goals, and when obstacles come, remember that you get to decide how you tell that story to yourself and to everybody else. I hope you've liked this. I hope you've enjoyed the opportunity to sit with me and get caught up. And if you have, would you like this video by giving it a thumbs up? And I'd love it if you'd subscribe to the channel too, because I don't want you to miss any upcoming videos as I share them along the way. But I want to thank you for joining me today, and I truly wish you well, and hope that you find the inspiration that you're looking for to design a healthy home and life that you love.